pharmaceutical ads could be banned from television. CNN says it could, quote, cripple them, which is fun. Are the days numbered for gory laundry lists of side effects to go with your Greg Gutfeld? The Trump administration is considering limiting or even banning pharmaceutical ads directly to patients. Meanwhile, a bill was just introduced in the Senate that would end all pharmaceutical advertising on TV, radio, print, and social media. Pharma would still be free to market to doctors, which they do a lot of, but they would not be able to scare customers into taking drugs they don't need for diseases that aren't real, that they don't have, or vaccinating against conditions so rare you may as well stop walking on sunny days for fear of lightning. Ironically, the Senate bill was introduced by Bernie Sanders and Angus Reid, who both caucus with the Democrat Party but are not formally in the party. In other words, the only two Democrats who are not on the payroll of pharma. Now, banning consumer pharma ads would be a major victory for Bobby Kennedy. It was one of his core campaign promises, citing over-medication and industry influence over news coverage. The famous lockdown brought to you by Pfizer. Direct-to-consumer ads are actually a recent thing, taking off when the FDA relaxed rules in 1997. And today, those direct-to-consumer pharma ads make up nearly 1 in 4 ad minutes on TV, totaling approximately $5 billion last year, promoting 23,000 different prescription drugs. One study by Kantar Media found pharma ads appear in 70% of commercial breaks on CBS Evening News. Now, this is driven over-medication to the point 66% of Americans are on a prescription drug. 1 in 4 of them take 5 or more drugs daily. 40% of 20-somethings are on a daily prescription. The U.S. consumes 38% of antidepressants in the world, 65% of antipsychotic drugs, and 80% of opioids. Put together, and 1 in 4 adult Americans are on mental health medications, and they vote. And 1 in 8 American boys are on ADHD drugs alone. In Finland or France, it's 1 in 50. Of course, more drugs means more mistakes. One study by the Lown Institute estimates 1.3 million ER visits due to drug reactions. The FDA receives over 400,000 reports of drug-related injuries per year, with an estimated 7,000 to 9,000 deaths. That's on top of the 28,000 who die from opioid overuse. Now, studies have estimated that up to half of prescriptions in the U.S. are either unnecessary or inappropriate, with up to 20% actually harmful. That same Lown Institute study found even doctors estimate 1 in 4 prescriptions are unnecessary or harmful. So what's next? Brought to you by I Trust Capital. Banning ad sales is a good start, but it still lets pharmaceutical companies pay doctors for prescriptions. Direct payments are illegal, but pharma companies are allowed to pay consulting fees, speaker fees, and take doctors out to dinner or travel. One 2016 study found even a single meal from a pharma rep, who are often quite attractive, makes a doctor more likely to prescribe the drug being promoted. We can only imagine what happens with an annual trip to the Bahamas with a tidy speaking fees. As for CNN, losing 1 in 4 ad minutes won't cripple them. 80% of their revenue actually comes from fees you're forced to pay in your cable bundle. But CNN would certainly have to cut back on their on-air talent, which ironically enough could do even more for Americans' mental health than the drugs. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.